It only took 37 days after the release of Highguard for its parent studio, Wildlight Entertainment, to make the announcement that the game will be shutting down on March 12th. Really quickly, here's what they said. In a tweet they shared, "Today we are sharing difficult news. We have made the decision to permanently shut down Highguard on March 12th. Since launch, more than 2 million players stepped into Highguard's world. You shared feedback, created content, and believed in what we were building. For that, we are deeply grateful. Despite the passion and hard work of our team, we have not been able to build a sustainable player base to support the game's long term. Servers will remain online until March 12th. We'll hope you jump in with us one more time to show your support and get those final great matches in while we still can." The team is excited to release one final game update to enjoy in the remaining life of the game. We'll be adding a new warden, a new weapon, and account level progression, and skill trees. Okay, that was a little triggering. And targeting tonight or tomorrow morning for full patch release. From all of us at Wildguard, thank you for playing. Wildguard. At Wildlight, thank you for playing, for supporting us, and being a part of Highguard's history. Of course, very sad for all of the devs that have lost their jobs, but actually, unfortunately, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, most of them were actually already gone. And doing a little bit of research around this just to refresh my memory on the layoffs that actually happened 2 weeks after the game's release, I ended up finding this article that sourced from 2 days ago, some reports from sources inside of the game studio. The article went on to mention that actually less than 20 people are still working on the Highguard team, with sources saying that an all-hands meeting took place on February 11th, during which staff were allegedly told the studio was out of money and most of their 100-person team would be laid off. So if this is accurate, they were already doomed to fail from the start. The article also went on to say staff were left with the impression that financing was contingent upon hitting certain metrics, such as retention rate, which they had failed to even come close to achieving. The article actually ended up finishing off with this saying, when the idea of taking the game into early access was suggested, leadership reportedly rejecting it, wanting to recreate the successful shadow drop of Apex Legends. Now, when are we gonna probably all learn that gaming has changed quite significantly, especially in the last 5 years? Pre-COVID gaming and post-COVID gaming are very, 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 very different. And a lot of gamers are both spoiled and tired of the current climate. And what I mean by that is that there are plenty of games out there that come out that want to be the next free-to-play, all-in, live service model game. But gamers only have so much time every day, and they probably already have a favorite, whether it's Fortnite, Apex, Valorant, Overwatch, Marvel Rivals, CS, whatever it ends up being, that they'll always end up going back to. And so it has to be a truly special game to grab their attention. The only one of recent memory that really comes to mind for me is Marvel Rivals. And so with that, I think gamers want something different. Now, before we go into it, let's be fair to Highguard. Did the hate train really help the game? Absolutely not. For those who are living under a rock, the game basically had a target on its back ever since the Game Awards, where it was the final trailer of the Game Awards ceremony, which is typically supposed to be a really hyped, big upcoming game. However, actually with Highguard, it was supposedly a favor to the studio by Jeff, the person who runs the event, because he had played the game and liked it so much and wanted to give them some free publicity. Normally it costs like 200,000, or I don't know, it was 2 million or 200,000 to get a spot trailer there, but actually gave it to them for free. Unfortunately though, it didn't blow people away. And so people were basically waiting for this game to tear it apart from the start. But there's a part there that's very interesting, which is the end of that article, where it said they wanted to recreate the successful shadow drop of Apex Legends, which is why we saw nothing beyond that trailer. We saw no communication, and genuinely that might have been their biggest mistake. Again, coming back to it, did the hate train help? No. But I think if the game was genuinely good, it would have had an impact, and I think it would have survived. For those who don't know, Marathon is coming out this week. And Marathon, I'd argue, actually has the same target on its back. The difference, though, with Marathon and with Highguard is Marathon has taken steps to try to get people to have a chance to try the game and also not feel like they're ready to just try to take your money as fast as possible. What I mean by that was things like the server slam. So Highguard did not do this at all. It just launched the game and basically said, here it is. Shadow dropped it. And day one, I played it actually, and it wasn't good. And it was having server issues, which I'm always willing to give it a little bit of time because server issues always happen to new games, especially on day one updates or anything like that. But the age-old saying was kind of true. You know what worked? The game didn't work, but the shop worked. And I say that with a little bit of like a tongue-in-cheek nature because I think it really speaks to what do gamers want. I think the year of 2026 and beyond, at least for the foreseeable future, is gamers wanting to have fully completed games from the start. They're sick and tired of trying to float these free-to-play lofty projects that are supposed to be the next big thing, but they're not ready. They don't have the money or the budget or the time to get it across the finish line because they have to make reports to investors and say, hey, this is where we're on project or on track. We're almost there. And investors get tired of waiting. They want to see a return on their investment and they have to show up with a product. And so the product's not done, whether their vision wasn't all the way there or wasn't fully aligned, which I'd argue Highguard might have actually fallen into that because it seemed like it was trying to do 6 different games at once. That was what most people took away from it. And things that were like the highlight, like the base building / base defending, everything else was just kind of moot in between. Like that was like kind of the decent part, but it didn't really matter like where you put your defenses and whatnot. So it was like they're kind of going for a Rainbow Six Siege feel, but like they also have the heroes of like Overwatch, but then it's like Apex Legends movement, and then they have like the horse riding of Realm Royale, and so there's just so many things that were going on there, and they might have had to reiterate so many times that they took too long to make the game go out the door, so they had to get it out and try to get eyes on it and start recouping that lost revenue by bringing in new players that will spend money on the microtransactions, on the battle passes, on the new heroes, whatever ends up being for them, because they've released a 1-year roadmap. Really quick, I just happened to go look for it really fast, and here it is. Here's their roadmap, by the way, that they put up on January 26th. And well, actually, you know what's funny is I kind of want to know what that surprise mode is on episode 7. But they had planned this game out for a very, very long time. But within 2 weeks, they had already decided, yeah, we didn't make enough money. GG's. Go next. And I really do kind of feel bad for the game because I think it had the potential. It really did. And they tried to like pivot really quickly to make the game 5v5 or 6v6 and get more players into it, because that was one of the big things that the game kind of felt like it was empty. And that was actually a feedback that I thought of actually as well, as I personally felt like the map felt empty. But by the point of which that update came through, I hate to say it, but everyone didn't care anymore. In the world of gaming we live in today, it is almost worse to be a it's aight game that you don't have any connection to. Whether it's you don't like the characters, you have no previous background, there's no competitive aspect with your friends to get into, there's nothing at all that pulls you really deep into the game, then a genuine bad game. At least a genuinely bad game will get a lot of attention. People are going to go, oh my god, that game is shit, and laugh at it, and then it like can kind of try to turn around, which Highguard could have, but it just didn't have the money for it. But it's like, why would I spend my time putting in my time and effort into this game when I could play something else? And if I'm going the competitive angle, well, then I'm going to play a more competitive game. If I'm going to go the casual angle, well, there's a million other casual games that I could have played out there. And I really think this should be a big wake-up call to many game studios, whether they're AAA or indie. What are you working on right now? Are you working on the next spin-off of a popular series like a hero shooter, extraction shooter, battle royale kind of game that's a free-to-play with microtransactions and a battle pass? If the answer is yes, you better be damn sure that that's the correct answer. Currently, I think Ubisoft's trying to do that. I don't know if that's going to go well for them, but gamers today, this is what they want. I'll explain it to you. This is actually very simple. If I'm a gamer and I'm going to go buy a new game, something I know nothing about, it's not a sequel, like the next coming of like whatever the next Skyrim game is, not GTA, Gus is barking. Gus! Okay. I don't know if you can hear. If you don't know if you can hear Gus barking. I'm solo this week. Shay's awake, so I've gotta be dog dad for this week. But regardless, though, this is what you do. Sorry, I keep getting distracted. If you are not releasing a sequel of a game, let's say Destiny 3, Apex 2, whatever it is, this is what you want to do. You want the game to be fully completed on release. Obviously, little bugs and stuff can happen. That's going to be hard to get everything, but you want it to be as polished as possible. You want it to be ready to go, out the door. Do not release a half-broken, half-made game with not a ton of content, hoping that your player base is going to float the cost for you to get there to fix it. They want to pay one singular price. Resident Evil came out this week. You know what's actually funny? Marathon and Resident Evil both kind of had this weekend, where Marathon had Server Slam and Resident Evil had its release. On almost all metrics, Resident Evil is winning, and it's not really that close. And that's no shade to Marathon, because it's a Server Slam, it's not the full release. But Resident Evil is a well-made, very fun game. Granted, again, sequel, a little bit different, but you got the whole game in one package. You don't have to pay microtransactions if you don't want to. If you are going to put microtransactions in your game, make it cosmetic only. I think people want to just pay one price, and then that's it. Arc Raiders is another good example. You paid $40 for the game. You get all the future content except cosmetics, but you can still get some other cosmetics in other ways. And I think that Arc Raiders still doing as well as it is now. It's still averaging 100, 200. I want to actually double check. As of me recording this right now, it has 204,000 players on Steam alone. Granted, that doesn't include consoles, but I bet consoles also reflect a pretty high number of players. You pay one price, you get in. Microtransactions are optional or cosmetic only. The game needs to be pretty much ready to go. And one other thing, this might be a little bit more niche. If you're making a game that's not PvP, it's PvE, people want to fight cool shit. And what I mean by that is I think many people, myself included, are tired of taking the same enemy that you would fight on normal or on legendary or on easy, and just the only difference between them is how many bullets it takes to kill them. Arc Raiders is a good example where you're fighting different types of enemies that require different types of combat. Whether you're fighting the giant matriarch and you need a bunch of people to work together shooting its weak spots and the joints and whatnot, or just a little hornet where you just shoot the fan in the back and it spins out and falls to the ground. That is 10 times better than just making the enemy chunkier. That said, Highguard is set to shut down in just about a week, and it's unfortunately a sad tale of what the current games industry looks like, but also maybe it's a bit of a wake-up call to the industry of like, hey, things have changed. You can't just work off old successes. You got to innovate because everyone's out there making good games. And realistically, as sad as it is, I wanted good games too, selfishly. So I hope to see more good games in this year. I hope to see more Resident Evil 9s. And to Highguard, I don't think it's the devs' fault. I think it's probably the investors' fault behind it that really wanted to see the return on investment and return that money. But maybe they also saw that the game just didn't have that sauce.